Good evening. This is a series of blogs. This is the second blog to mastery. In the first blog of mastery, we said there are two things, the rational thinking and the logic, which is the consciousness or the conscious mind. And the second thing is the subconscious or the unknown. So when we have access to the subconscious, it's called as intuition. And when we use our consciousness in a proper balanced way, it's called as logic or rational thinking. One fact has to be understood before we proceed. The subconscious does not have the capacity to balance or to analyze things. We think consciously, we get visual, tactile, sound, taste, and social inputs, and we interpret, and whatever we believe or perceive is going to go to the subconscious, and the subconscious will take that fact on the face value. For example, analogy, if we say that this dog is black, or all dogs like this are black, then our subconscious will perceive all dogs to be black. Or if we say if this kind of weather is there, it's going to rain, then our subconscious knows it's going to rain. So our intuitions will be guided by the perceptions or the cortical thinking or the logic that we derive, deduct or deduce, and that goes to the subconscious. So that means for subconscious to be balanced, we must have a balanced cerebral cortex or logical thinking or rational thinking. That means many factors have to be taken into account. For example, number one is the reality. So the reality which depends on culture, upon our past, upon our experiences, and upon the fundamental principles of divinity and the science, everything has to be taken into account. So if we use the logic in a proper way or our mind in a balanced way, we get this transfer to the subconscious. So when we have access to the subconscious, this intuition will be a balanced intuition. Why am I saying this? There are two terms, remember. One is the cortical bias and other is the intuitional bias. Now what is the intuitional bias? For example, I perceive that every human being is a good human being. Whatever he does, I forgive, I'm kind, I'm merciful, but I don't consider their deeds or actions to be bad. So my input to the subconscious is all human beings or all behaviors are good. So whenever I see a bad behavior, I will interpret it, okay, it's fine, it's just a little aberration, but he's a good human being or it's a good behavior. Or otherwise, vice versa, if I see a bad behavior, if I see a good behavior and I take everything as bad, my cortex or my logic will put that into the subconscious as a bad thing. All good things will be put as bad. So if I have access to the subconscious, which is the intuition, then I will perceive every bad thing or every good thing as bad. Why do we have cortical bias? Intuitional bias is simple. Whatever we feed, that gets the bias. So the logic has to be balanced so that the intuitions or the subconscious that is fed or the access to the subconscious is balanced. Now how do we get a logical thinking? Some fundamental principles and the scientific facts, the culture, the reality, the norms of the society or the place that we live in, the balance. But what is the bottom word? How to avoid the intuitional and the cortical biases. The word is truth. Remember, truth will liberate us. Truth liberates everything. So we have to be very fair and justful in balancing the behaviors, the facts, the humans, the scenarios, the events. They have to be based on truth. And if one has to find the truth, one has to be truthful to himself. The man in the mirror has to speak the truth. One has to get rid of all the negativities of the life. But then suddenly, if we do not follow the truth, we might be untruthful to us and we might get intuitional or cortical biases. So when we base our logic or rational thinking on truth, for example, this patient has such parameters, the arterial blood gases are like this, the CRP is raised, the lactic acid is more, the precalcitonin is high, so the logic says, the truth says, the evidence says that this patient is going to have sepsis or have sepsis and very soon he is going to die. So this is the truth. So if when we next time encounter the same parameters of results, our intuition is we have to save this patient. So the truth, the facts, the truthful facts will liberate you, will get the cortical biases from your logic, from your rational thinking. For truth, one has to have an experience of life. The broad canvas, the bigger picture, the far-sightedness and the near-sightedness and the rare-sightedness. The rare-sightedness is of the past, the experiences, the present and the future. Truth will give you logic, balanced, true logic. And when this logic over a period of time goes to your subconscious, the subconscious will have a truthful, a true picture, a reality, a normal picture. Good is good, bad is bad, fair is fair, worse is worse, this is this, that is that. So, when we, in the process of mastery, when we gain access to our subconscious, or when we have access to our subconscious, our intuitions will be based on truth and they will be balanced. All divine scriptures, as far as I have read, and I have read many, they talk of logic and rational thinking to understand those scriptures and to live the life. No scripture says that you should understand these or them by emotions. Now, why are emotions important? Emotions are important because we need to care, love, show trust. So emotions are the basis of the faith. When I was born, I did not know who my father was, but I had emotions for my mother or for my father. So my mother told me, this is your father. And I had a strong inclination of love towards my mother, so I believed her. Emotions are the basis of faith, the foundation of the building of the mastery of self and the mastery on others and the mastery in total. So when we have the faith, after emotions, it comes the building of the building, the blocks one by one laid up, up, up and up. So once we have faith based on emotions, we should go to logic. Logic has to be fed the truth. Truth is reality. And once we know the reality, once we know that our intuitions are balanced, and when we know, because we know ourselves better than anyone else in the world. So we have to accept those realities. They will hit you up and down, below and right and left, from front and back. And when we can absorb those realities based on truth, the balanced, the intuitions and the logic, and when we don't show what we don't need to show, and when we don't speak the truth when it is not needed, though we know nobody is asking us to speak truth, and when we can absorb all those negativities, the imbalances of others and ourselves, and still carry the torch of truth and the balance of logic and the access to the subconscious, the intuition, there will lie the mastery. The Sufi poet of Indo-Pakistan, Sultan Bahu, said, Wahdatul Wujud and Wahdatul Shuhud both are important. Wahdatul Wujud is the logic, the conscious, and Wahdatul Shuhud is the rational thinking. The balance is needed to get the mastery. Thank you very much.